That movie sucked.
I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
Hello and welcome to Content and Capable, where I try to figure out what it really means to adult. Today I spoke to the wonderful Chris Downs all about his journey pursuing his passions and the wonderful places that it has taken him around the world. Welcome to Content and Capable, Chris. It's lovely to have you on.
It is lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
For those who have not discovered you by accident on TikTok, or are just not aware of your amazing presence, who are you and what do you normally do?
Okay, well, I am... who am I as in my name? How far do you want me to go back?
Look, let's just go back, and you were born at a very young age, you know.
I was born as a baby. My name is Christopher Downs. I am a comedian, sometimes. I'm a writer. I have done both of those things intermittently, sometimes even professionally. And as a regular job, I work in the questions department of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire Hot Seat.
Wow.
That's my day-to-day job. That's
a very interesting and very niche gig you've got there.
Oh, yeah. I'm one of like 10 people in the country doing questions for a trivia game show. That's a small department of people.
Yeah. And like for a game show that I don't watch, like it's not something that admittedly, I don't even have free-to-air TV here. I would have to be watching it over the internet. But at the same time, like I haven't heard much about Millionaire Hot Seat or Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or something like that in a long time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the number one reaction from people when I tell them is, the show's still on? which is great. That's fine with me. I mean, who's watching it is none of my concern.
No, yes. But, I find it very fascinating. And, like, what does that job entail for you nowadays?
Because I've been doing this... I've been working on the show for just over 10 years now,
wow.
Which is surprising to me as much as anyone else. I used to just be the editor of questions, so other people would write them. We had teams of verifiers, and I would then do the final edits before we put them in the database. I now have more of a general questions producer sort of role. I still do that. Yeah. I also write some questions. I also help build the episodes. I also help go through our other writers' questions. So a little bit of everything. Once you've been, working on a show for that long and you learn how most things work, you're just kind of a bitzer. I just do here and there.
Yeah, I suppose this with a lot of jobs, like when your role isn't this like super, super defined, you end up learning different bits and pieces from different aspects of the job and basically taking almost a managerial point.
Absolutely, because I'm the one who undefined it, because the job I took back in 2011 was very clearly defined. I have changed it, and it's actually pertinent to what you talk about in this podcast. When I went part-time 4 years in, so I could do more acting and writing. And since then, I've just shaped my own job here.
Wow, that's amazing. So how did you get into that job? Was that something that you had to win a trivia competition yourself? And
no, it was largely a coincidence. I was dating someone, and he was studying the professional writing and editing at RMIT. And the Hot Seat team had generally hired internally for their staff, and had run out of people and needed to they wanted some fresh blood. And they were like, let's look out amongst the world. Where do we go? And as with all recruitment, they just weren't quite sure where to go, who to seek out. How do you, like you said, this is a niche job. How do you seek someone out? Like, can you edit trivia? So they ended up sending out the job listing to RMIT for this course had some kind of society of editors. It was a student group, but it had a very fancy professional sounding name. And they put the job listing amongst that group, and it found its way to my boyfriend at the time. And then it found its way to me. and I applied, and then I got it.
Wow, that's so fascinating. And like, you've just been there ever since. Has it been something that you've like leaned into and leaned out of from time to time?
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm currently I'm kind of in a lean-in phase at the moment, but the work has afforded me so many freedoms, and it is in part because, you know, when you work in a TV production, we're very lucky that our production goes for so much of the year, because a lot of shows go in and out in 3 months. You know, they do the whole lot and they're done.
Yeah.
Part of the trade-off is, you know, you are always at risk of this might be the last week you work on this job.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I've gone to them and said, hey, I want to go part-time because I want to do more acting, or 2 years later, I want to move to the US and I can do this job from home. Can my home be in another continent? And they said, that's fine. You know, it's afforded me a lot of freedoms to do stuff.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And, you know, brushing on the comedy a little bit, how did you get into that, like, aspect of your life?
I started out in radio in Brisbane.
What radio station did you start in?
B105.
Ah, okay. I'm at 4ZZZ, so...
Oh, nice. Yeah. So I started there as a... Okay, so I started there as a volunteer because I was at an acting school in Brisbane, and I had to pay my way through it. And I was working at a job. The place closed down. I was desperate for a job. I became a telemarketer. I hated it so much. And I hated telling people, because, you know, if you say, oh, I'm studying to be an actor, their first follow-up question is, but what do you do for money? And I was too stupid and too pure to lie. So rather than just say I did something else, I took on a second volunteer position at it was, what's it called up there? It's the Austereo Network. So it was B105 and Triple M on the information service.
Wow.
People ring up, what's on in Brisbane this weekend? And you tell them. And then when people ask me, what do you do? I could lie and say that was my job, even though it wasn't. And from there, I worked my way up into, I became a very, very part-time receptionist, like 1 day a week. And then I started helping out more with the information line that I had previously volunteered on. And then I forget how, but my job became compiling a fortnightly newsletter for the staff. And all the departments gave their updates for the fortnight. We're doing this, we're up to that, blah, blah, blah. And if a head of department, because they're very busy people and I was not, couldn't get an update out, I'd write it for them. And so I'd write it, and I started compiling with stupid comics and memes I found on the internet, and I had my own part at the beginning of the newsletter. And I didn't even really realize what I was doing. I would like to say that I knew that I was funny, and if only someone could see my funny writing, I would be picked up and have a distinguished comedy career. I didn't. I was just doing what I was writing how I wrote. And a program director noticed. And asked me to do a demo for him. Well,
wow.
That's the short version. 3 different program directors asked me to do demos, and the first 2 were dismal failures. And the third one took, and he coached me and a woman by the name of Sarah to be my co-host to do a show. And we did, and it went from there. And only after he pointed out that I wrote funny stuff did it occur to me that I could be anything even remotely resembling a writer, a comedian, anything like that. I was dead set I was going to be an actor. And I still pursue that now, but someone had to point out to me that I could be funny, and then I started leaning into that more.
And like, as you said, you're preparing to co-host a show. Did that show eventuate, or?
It did. So we started out at midnight on a Friday night.
Oh, gotta love it.
Yep. There was a 2-hour show once a week, and then 3 weeks into it, daylight savings kicked in, which means the networked show that they played before us actually went until 1 a.m. So then we were 1 a.m. on a Saturday morning. and we worked out. We did that for. Well, we weren't even paid for that. We did that for several months. Then we moved to 10 p.m. on a Tuesday, which to us felt like the biggest upgrade.
That's such an upgrade.
Oh,
yeah,
it was heaven. And then we were able to put in timesheets for it. We went from there to. We jumped straight from there to we filled in for the breakfast show when they went on holiday.
Oh, yes.
And we just about shat ourselves. So that was back in the day. I think I can't help but think that you're probably quite younger than me. So this was in the day when it was Jamie Dunn and Aggro and...
they ring a bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. I definitely... Like, what year was that?
So this was 2002.
Okay, yeah. I was 6 months old.
Okay, so I got to go.
Yeah.
It's been lovely to talk to you. I'm going to go and throw myself down this cliff. No, so they were a radio show. He
back in the 2000s of radio, he
started in
iconic.
the 80s.
Yeah.
So he'd been on for 16 years at that point. So that was a legendary show at that time that we filled in for, and we were just like, they have made a huge mistake. Do they not realize that we don't know what the fuck we're doing? And that was our brand for the rest of our radio career. For the next how long were we on air for? The next 5 years after that, our whole situation was, we don't know what the fuck we're doing, but people act like we do. So we became their regular fill-in. We then had our own Saturday morning breakfast show, and then a year and a half after that, we were packaged up as a full show and sent to Canberra, and we were the breakfast show in Canberra for 2 years.
Wow. Yep. That's so cool.
So by then I was like, I'm a professional comedian. So I felt
100%.
established then as a creative, funny person.
It's interesting because it seems like every person's career in radio seems to go the same way. I was speaking to Scotty McDonald, who is the social media manager for Channel 10, but he started it out at 96.5 and working there, and he did a similar stint at B105 for a little bit as well, and it seems to be the same thing. You kind of like stumble upwards in radio.
You do.
And I've done the same thing. I started at 4ZZZ with their amazing news internship because I'm a journalist by trade, and I kind of stumbled up, and now I host a radio show every week, not every day. I'm not as famous as you guys are, but to the point where I'm often covering very interesting events, and I find it very fascinating that I look at my friends in television, and I look at my friends in writing, and they have to work so hard, and then there's people like us who kind of stumble up into these really amazing positions.
Yeah, absolutely, and part of it is because, again, I mean, radio is a huge industry, but so many of the roles within it are also very niche roles. There isn't there's afters. You can train to be in radio, but there's so many things that have skills that you can only just learn there. And so once you're in the building, and this is my general advice to anyone who wants to get into radio, get into the building and then wait. Because, Osher Ginsburg started the same way I did. Yeah. Just faffing about it, B105. Got a silly Black Thunder name, and then off he went.
Yeah. And look at Hamish and Andy as well, and their rise as well. They're basically celebrity royalty here in Australia, and I'm sure that they're internationally recognised. I've got quite a few Americans who actually listen to this, who probably even recognise those names. And we were talking about it in uni the other day, and I didn't realise that they started in community radio and kind of was faffing about, and they got picked up and taken all the way up to where they are.
Yeah, exactly.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it kind of goes to show that radio isn't dead. Everyone talks about it, and it's like, well, no, they're not actually dead.
Yeah, no, and I understand that. I've been out of radio since 2010. Yeah, and since then, streaming music services have taken off way more than they were at the time. But, and at the risk of sounding like an old grandpa myself, as long as people have cars they got to drive to work in, radio,
100%. I carpool with a friend at the moment to get into my day job, the job that pays the bills for me. And it is the radio. The radio's on. It is not podcast. It's not Spotify. It's the radio.
7:30 a.m. is too early to listen to any of my playlists. It's too early.
Too much of a high energy. If someone looked through my Spotify right now, it would be way too high energy for 7:30 in the morning.
I could not agree more. That's exactly why it's on in my car when we drive either to work or to the train station fully.
Yeah. And what I secretly love is when my father turns full old man mode and puts on the ABC for a couple of hours in the morning. And I go, oh, yes, Sunday morning on the ABC, it is just the ultimate slow life, and it's amazing.
It is. There's a foreign comfort to it. If it's not what you listen to every day, having it on and just going, oh, this is old and chill and it's slow. You're exactly right. It's slow life. You're like,
Yeah, and it's like almost like going to the country and you're like, oh, this is what, this is fascinating. I love being in the country. It's hilarious. 100%. I love it. And so once, you said you finished up radio in about 2010, did you make that decision of your own volition, or had things like progressed in other areas of your life that made you move?
I'll be honest, things that actually regressed. Now my co-host and I preface this by saying I was actually in Canberra just last weekend where my old co-host still lives. We caught up. It was heaven. I love her so much.
Yeah.
2 years into our breakfast show in Canberra, so this was 2007, we did not care for each other very much. We were very... Well, I certainly... Not deeply, on a very surface level, hated her, and I know that she was furious with me. And she admitted to me recently that radio was never really sustainable for her. She realized as she got older that she doesn't want to be exposed. She doesn't want to be seen by or heard by thousands of people. And her whole deal, like her whole thing that she did best, was telling every single embarrassing story that ever happened to her. And she's like, that's with friends. That's at a pub. That is not to the entire city. So eventually she quit. And commercial radio being what it is, we were a brand as Chris and Sarah. And without Sarah, there was no Chris. So I got moved off breakfast. Whether I wanted to or not, I did not.
Yeah.
And I kicked about in radio for another 3 years. But by 2010, what I wanted more than anything was to move to Melbourne. And so I just found any job that allowed me to write. And so I got out of radio simply to get to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think that is an interesting thing. I've seen people do that and be so desperate to get somewhere that they're willing to leave everything behind. Some of my friends are finishing up their degrees now, and I've had friends move to Melbourne, of all things, but also to rural New South Wales and Cairns, and to take these regional jobs because they're so desperate to get a job that they're willing to drop everything for it. And I'm sitting here going, there is no way in God's green earth that I will even consider taking a job without considering, whether I can have a support system in place.
Yes. Yeah. And I actually made that mistake in the middle of it. In 2008, I got a job in Sydney as a content editor for, I probably at this stage won't name it, but a weekly magazine.
Yeah.
And I lasted 2 weeks. I moved back to Canberra, got my old job back, got my old house back, just abandoned the whole thing because no support network was the wrong decision. I totally get that. By the time I moved to Melbourne, I actually knew a couple of people. And when I moved to New York 4 years ago, same thing. I knew people. It's very, very important. But I just wanted to get there.
Yeah, it's an interesting desire. Like I've definitely had that desire of just I've got to get out of here. It's so hard to even in Brisbane, like you wouldn't consider Brisbane a backwater. And then my professor, when the Olympics were announced, turned around and goes, "Yeah, no, everyone who doesn't live in Australia thinks that we're a bit of a backwater." And I sat there and I'm like, No, not really. Come on. And then like you think about it, I'm like, oh, we really are just a glorified country town.
Well, that was its reputation when I lived there, and I was born in Brisbane. Although I moved around throughout Queensland growing up, I didn't live in Brisbane as consciously, as in not a baby, until I was 18. But the reputation at the time, that was the nickname it gave itself. We're the world's biggest country town, and that brand has shifted. But yeah, no, there is something they're fighting against. Are you from Brisbane?
I have a complicated history with this. My mother, born and bred in Redcliffe. Very much Queenslander. Her family was a rugby family. My father was born in Alice Springs in the middle of buttfuck nowhere. They met in Sydney. I had me in Sydney, and then within 4 years, I wasn't even conscious at the time, really, moved up to Queensland, and we've been living there ever since.
Okay.
So our family split, and when it comes to state of origin, you have to be careful what parent you want to please that week in terms of what side you support. It's great fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting because that would explain why you have a much clearer idea about where you're willing to be and not be.
Yeah.
Because I had, like I said, I'd moved around so much. The house I'm living in right now is my 66th house.
I know. I was about to mention you've got this amazing blog.
I do.
It's just Christopher doesn't live here anymore. 64, well, 66 as you just said.
It's 64 on the website because I'm 2 stories behind because I fell out of practice doing it. But that's why I wanted to move to Melbourne because one, I came here to visit of the dozens of towns and cities I've lived in, mostly in Queensland, also Darwin, and then Canberra and Sydney. Melbourne was the first place I was like, oh, this is my home. This is where I was always meant to be.
Yeah. And like in terms of that in relation to like your age and the position you're at in your career, did that feel like a good, did you ever feel like that was going to be where you would stay for the rest of your life?
Yes. So much so that, I say that and then I moved to the US, but I did definitely think so I had spent my entire childhood trying to please can we just move to Brisbane because I'm sick of living in these fucking towns either being beaten up, bullied because I was bookish, nerdy, and as it turns out a homosexual. I didn't know at the time. They all seemed pretty sure about it, but I didn't know. But whatever. I hated it and got to Brisbane, was so happy. But then I got older and wanted to pursue a career and like, okay, this may not be where I live forever. Canberra definitely wasn't going to be where I was going to live forever.
Yeah.
I loved it and I still love it now, but it was never going to be permanent. So yes, Melbourne, to answer your question, when I got there was like, I could exist here forever.
Yeah. For those who don't know Melbourne, I think the best way to describe it is kind of the New York of Australia. Like it's less like Sydney would be like your Chicago. It's very businessy, very uptight. But then like Melbourne is this cultural melting pot of everything together. And you think about like the cultural makeup of New York, it's very similar.
I would agree. I would agree a lot with that. Having lived in both places, I know that some people. And a lot of them in Sydney try to say that Sydney is the New York. It's not. You're right. It's got a business streak like Chicago. It's got a huge Californian streak as well.
Oh yeah, that too. It's ridiculous. And then there's Brisbane, which is like the weird Midwest city that kind of sits halfway between.
It's got it's also got streaks. It's got a streak of the Midwest. It's got a big streak of Florida. If for no other reason than it's hot and sweaty, but.
Oh yeah, I'm sitting in the shortest shorts I own and wearing a business shirt. Like it's, I've come straight from work and I am probably the definition of a Floridian. It was raining this morning. It was cold, and now I'm trying to open up every window in the house and turn every fan on so I can cool down.
Oh, my sister lives in Brisbane. Her favourite thing to do is sometimes is to send screenshots of the weather report showing what it's going to be in Melbourne, where I am, and going to be where she is, and captioning it with fun things like, you know what, fuck you, because I'm always going to be more comfortable than she is.
Yeah, always. And you know, the times I have visited Melbourne, Melbourne's put on the full Technicolor Dreamcoat of the weather, which is always hilarious to watch.
Oh, if you like predictability, this is not the place for you. This is a surprise.
Yep.
And you just roll the dice.
We visited Vancouver many years ago as a family, and the first thing that my aunt and my parents, who were there at the time, said was, "This is Melbourne." Like, this is just the definition of Melbourne: grey, dark, and the weather is just very unpredictable. But just so fascinating, and I feel, you know, so privileged to be able to talk about these kind of things. But like, in terms, you mentioned briefly before, you know, your sexuality. In terms of, you know, coming to terms with that and figuring that out, where did that kind of fit in this whole process of moving around Australia?
Well, when I was 12 years old, I was in my friend's swimming pool.
Yeah.
With him. Nothing, and this story isn't going anywhere lewd. I think about that time now, and I was like, oh, something happened.
Yeah.
Like, my brain at the time was like, I feel weird. Why do I feel weird? And I had no idea. I kissed a boy for the first time at 15.
Wow.
Of all places, I kissed more boys in Rockhampton. This was in Rockhampton in 1996 in year 11 than I did for the first 4 years of living in Brisbane. But I stayed confused and unsure about my sexuality until I was 23. So I was in Brisbane working at the radio station. When I finally, it's halfway between accepted and realised, because even though I'd spent 8 years going, I might be gay, I'm probably not, but I might be, it genuinely came as a surprise when, and the catalyst was trying to ask out a girl and her refusing, and me having this moment of exasperation, just like, why is this pursuing women? Yeah. Why is this so fucking hard? And a little voice in my head said, because you don't want to. And so I got ridiculously drunk, told all my friends I was gay, called the ones I wasn't out with, I called. Yeah. And the next morning I woke up and called them all back one by one and took it back. And then a month later I got drunk again and did it again. And the second time I didn't take it back.
That's great. What an emotional roller coaster, your friends.
Oh, those poor bastards.
Yeah. It's very fascinating to hear that story. For context, I'm straight. Like, it's not. I just find it so fascinating that whole, that decision-making process, and that anecdote that you kissed more guys in grade 11 than you did, after living in Brisbane. Like, that's just. I find it hilarious knowing a little bit about Rockhampton. Yeah. And it's just funny.
I dated a boy for 3 weeks in Rockhampton, and at the risk of outing myself as someone who had quite a sad, lonely 20s, I didn't date anybody properly until I was 29. So I, again, dated more people in high school in Rockhampton, the beef capital of Australia, than I did for the entirety of my 20s. So
the way you said the beef capital of Australia, just, so Aussie, like, just, that's amazing.
That's my voice for when tradies come around and I'm intimidated.
Yeah. 100%.
Oh, yeah, the kitchen's over there, no worries, mate. Don't worry about that nail polish, it's just mine. So big tick for Rockhampton, I guess. But yeah, I didn't actually realise I was gay until I was 23, and I didn't stop hating myself about it till I was like 28.
Yeah. And I suppose it's something, especially for the time where, Australia's always been a little bit backwards and they've been a little bit slower on the uptake. And then, the whole, as it became more and more okay culturally, seeing more and more people coming to terms with it, and coming to terms with it earlier as well.
Nothing makes me happier, and obviously it's always with a little streak of white hot envy. But it's
Yeah.
just, it's so magnificent when I hear stories either from people my age who are teachers or teenagers being like, oh yeah, my friend is my best friend. He's gay. He came out when he was 13. I'm like, he what?
Yeah.
Fucking tremendous. It's just it's wonderful. It is so much better now.
Yeah, and I think that is just going to continue becoming more and more positive. And it allows for these conversations when you're young and still learning things that I think are really important as well. Because oftentimes as soon as you become, I think when she hit like the age of 25, you start to solidify some of your thoughts on things, and it becomes really hard to teach people about,
Totally.
new concepts and the changing world.
Yeah.
I'm watching my parents, who are very smart people, become less and less tech savvy as they struggle to keep up with the changes. And it's amazing because, 2 years ago, but yeah, they're fine technologically, that they can do it. And now, like, as they become old, and I'm very sorry if my parents are listening to this, I'm very sorry that I've just called you old, and I will buy you a drink for it. But like, as they become older, it's kind of scary to watch them turn into, my grandparents who have had to coach through using technology. And it's the same with concepts such as, homosexuality and a whole bunch of other different things that we're learning about today.
100%. And it does become, as you get older, the learning of new things process does not come naturally.
No.
You do, it does, it is tempting to be like, well, these are all my thoughts now. I've collected them all. I'm done. It takes a conscious effort to not reject new ideas and to learn new things, even down to... So I turn 41 in 3 weeks.
Oh, you're not much older, not much younger than my parents.
Well, that's what I was thinking. No, I was thinking that. And my husband is 37. Oh, if he's 38 and I've shaved a year off, lucky him. We have had to start to keep up even just with new music. This is not an important, serious thing, and not like gender identity or sexuality. This is just music. We have to force ourselves to put on MTV hits, let it play while we're doing whatever we're doing. If something catches our ear, we hit Shazam, find out what it is, add it to a Spotify playlist called, I shit you not, I'm with it. And that is how we keep abreast, roughly, of new releases. Because without that, it's not in our ears anymore. And so we try to apply that level of effort to every new concept that comes our way.
Wow.
And I think everyone else should be doing the same thing.
Oh yeah, it's almost like learning a completely new skill from scratch. Like, I've just started working in what could be crudely described as a call center, and learning how to deal with not just like just general queries, but distress people. I had people in tears today. I had people yelling at me. I had, all sorts of delightful abuse. And admittedly, I work in a pretty controversial space. But, by taking these calls, I'm really having to, deal with that full spectrum and learn and keep learning new processes. I was in a meeting last night that went till like 6:30, and there's another meeting tonight that will have different instructions. And I just turned around to my coworker and said, I just can't attend tonight. It's, my brain is too rattled from last night's meeting to even consider trying to learn what the new developments are for tonight. And it's just, I don't know. I find it very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what prompted your move to New York then?
Well, so I ended up in Melbourne with just a miscellaneous job, and a year later ended up working at Hot Seat. And 4 years later, well, is that 4 years? Yes. 2015, I was working part-time so I could pursue more acting, more writing. I had written my blog, Christopher Doesn't Live Here Anymore, and I was adapting it into a comedy show for the Fringe Festival. Yeah. I did that. I then performed it at I performed it in Brisbane at the Powerhouse for a couple of nights. I did it at the Comedy
Beautiful
Festival.
space. Yeah.
Oh my God, what a magic venue.
I went there for the first time. I've been too scared to like let myself go to things like that because it's expensive as well, and
Sure.
I feel like it's a gateway drug. But I turned up to the Powerhouse. We actually went and saw Brisbane, which was a part of the Brisbane Comedy Special Festival. And it was just amazing. The space. My brother and I got there half an hour early, just exploring the space and walking around and looking at it.
It's stunning.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The whole draw for me absolutely was getting to perform at the Powerhouse. It was a queer arts festival. I didn't care who came to see my show. I didn't care how small my room was. I just wanted to be, I did a show at the Powerhouse. Hair toss. And then I had been to the US a couple of times on holidays. I had one of my best friends here in Australia had been an exchange student for a year before I met her. And I'd been to visit her old host family, and they're this weird, dysfunctional New York family that just took us all in under their wing.
Wow.
So I'd been over back several times to visit them. I went over on a holiday, and by that point, so this was 2016, I was a quote-unquote professional actor. I had an agent. I had done my show at the Comedy Festival. Things were happening. I was making headway.
Yeah.
And so I booked a holiday simply because Air New Zealand was having a massive sale. And then as an afterthought, I called my agent and I was like, if I did like an acting thing while I was there, could I claim this trip on tax? This is literally the genesis of my entire life for the past 6 years. Was like, can I get a tax break? And she said, you can try. So I booked myself into Improv 101 at the Upright Citizens Brigade.
Wow.
Which is the improv troupe started by Amy Poehler and Matt Walsh and two other people who aren't as famous as Amy Poehler and Matt Walsh. And so I did that, went over. It was a week-long intensive because normally the course goes for like 8 weeks or so.
Yeah.
And became so besotted with improv and that level of creativity, and also just doing things in New York, that I was like, I have to move here. I have to live here. I have to. I don't know. I have to figure out a way. And it was that mindless, one-eyed, this is a thing that I have to do that allowed me to do it, because I had neither the means, I didn't have the money, I didn't have a job, I didn't have a way of living there.
Yeah.
I just was gonna.
Yeah.
And I caught some exceptionally lucky breaks. One of the members of this dysfunctional host family was running her own business, and she was like, well, I need someone to do my social media, my copywriting. I can hire you. Will that help? And there is a particular visa for Australians that allows that. You need to have a degree. I did not. Or you can have the equivalent in work experience. They call, for immigration, they call the equivalent 4 years of work for every 1 year of a degree, and 3 years of work, and their degrees are 4 years. So I needed to prove that I had been a writer for 12 years. I was able to do that. I actually hired an immigration lawyer who specializes in Australians based in New York. And we figured it out this way. There's this process you do. You contact a university, you give them your resume, and they assess it and go, okay, this is the equivalent of a degree in whatever it is you want to get a degree in. So I'm technically a graduate of the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. And I started working 4 jobs.
Wow.
Because I was still working at Hot Seat. By then I started working at the Comedy Festival as an usher, which is so much fun. Brilliant work.
You get to meet so many amazing people as well. And if you're I did. I mean, part of my show's success was because my first year working the Comedy Festival, I looked after Claire Hooper for her room. I was the venue manager of her room. We became kind of friends, and she let me pick her brain on how to write a comedy show. And if you have any kind of joy of talking to people, public speaking, ushering is just, it's money for jam. It's such good work, and it's pretty easy. Anyway, I was doing that. I was working at the cafe next door to my house just because I was like, can I wash your dishes? I need some money.
And I spent 6 months saving every penny I could get to move to New York. The visa came through. It was granted.
Yeah.
I went over there. I did the subsequent courses at UCB. Improv 201, 301, 401. The second I finished the last course, I never went back. The whole desire to do that left me.
Yeah, wow.
Which is weird. But by then I was pursuing other comedy writing avenues.
Yeah.
And by then I'd met my now husband, Will. We'd started dating. He moved to New York, and then we got married. So
that's awesome.
yeah. So from that point, I was then pursuing being more of a straight up comedy writer, if not not stand up comedian. Although I was also trying that sort of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted that just seemed like the next step. It was something I'd wanted to do my entire life is live in the US.
Yeah.
And so I did.
Yeah, it's fascinating because I've got that same weird desire of I've got to go and live in the US at least for a period of time, and then there's this niggling thought in the back of my head going, "Ooh, maybe not."
Oh yeah,
yeah, and it's like it's a terrifying prospect to live halfway around the country, a 24-hour flight home, and you know I'm so lucky through this podcast I've been able to create a support system in the US, but at the same time I'm still feel like if I moved there tomorrow I would have nothing and it would be terrifying. It's interesting you said that the degree was 4 years because somehow I've managed to get into a 3-year journalism course that I've almost managed to complete in 2.5 years. I'll finish it in 3 years, but
that's wonderful. I don't know why their degrees are 4 years. That seems, considering most of ours are 3, are they not?
Most of them are 4.
Oh, they are 4.
The trap, and I did not realize this when I applied for my journalism degree, was the fact that you still have to do a year as a graduate being trained by whatever news organization you work for, because none of them trust the universities to be able to teach them how to write news. I'm like, fuck off. Come on. Like, you could look at my resume and see the news writing that I've done and the work that I've done, and it would be easy to know that I know how to write a news story. Yes, your style, I'd have to get a hang on. It may take me, a month or two to work that through, but it does not require a year of training.
No, it can't do.
Yeah, nah. And so, but like, I'm going to have to do that. And it's, I don't know, it's a little depressing, but at the same time, I'm like, well, a year kind of stuck doing pseudo university work might be good for me. Maybe it'll calm me down a little bit. I think I give my poor parents a half a heart attack every week. I'll call my mother at like 10 o'clock at night and go, yeah, I'm thinking you're doing this crazy thing now. She just rolls her eyes. She goes, you just shut up.
That's great. One of those crazy things is going to stick one day, and you'll do it, and it'll be the exact right thing you needed to do at the time.
Yeah. I've convinced myself I must travel to America next year, which is, I don't know. In this day and age, I don't know whether that's the smartest thing to do, but I have convinced myself and have spoken seriously to people about traveling to America, which is just, I don't know. It's interesting. So what, like, for some weird reason, I thought that you were still living in New York. What made you come back to Australia?
It was the two things. So getting my visa took 6 months. In the last 2 weeks of the last month, Donald Trump won the election.
We love it.
And I landed, I got my visa and booked my flight and landed the day he was inaugurated. Just like, well, I've come this far. I can't turn back now, but fuck. Yeah. And, lived there through the most chaotic 3 years of, the US's recent history, at least. And it was partly that, even though I knew that his presidency had a time limit, whether it be 4 years or 8 years. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, living there really hit home how their healthcare system works. Now, this is not a international healthcare system podcast, but it's expensive.
Yeah.
And it's garbage. And I've lived with Medicare my whole life, and I realized that I was a car accident away from total bankruptcy, and I don't have... I mean, I've got friends who live there, who've moved there from Australia, who either have independent wealth of their own because they work in software and, are comfortable enough that they can get themselves
Yeah.
out of a jam, or have wealthy families, or at least just supportive big families who can pull their shit together in a crisis. I don't have any of that. I have a dirt poor family, and if I ever got into a medical jam, I'm fucked. So it was a bit of that, and you know, my husband also isn't from money, and we realized that if we got into trouble, we're absolutely fucked. So between that and the chaos of the government while we were living there, we devised an escape plan. Like, if things go pear-shaped at the midterm elections, or what if the government swings even further and towards bigotry and they invalidate our marriage or something, and then I'm not allowed to live here anymore, like, holy shit. So we devised a really dramatic, hyperbolic escape plan of how we would cut and run. And then the midterm elections happened, and they actually weren't that bad. They were actually quite good. And then we both realized independently that we still wanted to enact the plan. Which was a huge reckoning for me, because I wanted to live in the US my entire life, and I moved there with the sole purpose of never coming back. And I had just made a community of comedians. I had entered an NBC late night writers workshop in which I had been shortlisted by, you know, I had an interview with NBC executives, which is big noting myself, but it was literally to do a 1 week intern workshop. So it wasn't anything serious, but it was a big deal amongst comedy writers. But I was like, I don't know if it's sustainable to live here. I've already gone 2 years without seeing a doctor because I'm afraid of what it'll cost, et cetera, et cetera. And then my, you know, American husband was like, yeah, I could do to live somewhere where I'm free to go to hospital and the food tastes good. So we came back, and, you know, the plan had always been for me to get my green card, then for us to move here, and for him to get his permanent residency. So then we're free to go wherever we want. And instead we're just here. And this might be it for us. I think we're pretty solid on just living here. Especially once COVID hit, and then things got even crazier over there.
Oh, look, I looked at the whole COVID thing, and by chance, the episode before this one is speaking to my lovely friend Alex, who works in public health, and she turned around and she said, I don't think I had a life outside of COVID for, you know, X amount of months. And it's, to be honest, same here. My father works in the military. He was working 17 hours a day, 7 days a week. We had family photos at one stage during COVID. We had a family friend come over and take some photos. And Dad was on the phone for half the photos. And it was terrible. And this was, I had graduated. I'd just finished high school. I'd just gotten into university. And I looked over at my mother wrangling, I'm the eldest of 10 children, my mother wrangling 9 other children. Actually, it wasn't 9 at the time. It was 8. 8 other children, including twins in year 12. And I looked at this and I said, this is terrible. This will make or break our family because it was just so splitting. Dad wasn't home. Mum was stressed. I couldn't be fully present because I had a university degree that was my priority. And I had school-age siblings who just needed a lot more care and attention than could physically be given. And it was terrifying to see that happen. And we've come out better for it and stronger for it. And I'm so glad that there was a test of like where our boundaries were, because like going into relatively normal, and I'm so lucky to live in Queensland at the moment. So lucky to live in Queensland, and it was relative normal at the moment. It's been nice to be able to know where my boundaries are and go, no, and be able to know where I can say no now, because I couldn't do that beforehand.
I absolutely agree. I will never go so far as to say that I won't describe it as good came from this, because it was front to back. It's been and still is terrible, heinous and fucked. But if there is to be a silver lining, so for you it was boundaries, for me it was priorities, is being able to crystallize and identify what my priorities are. I also actually think, I think some boundary setting as well it's happened. It's certainly happened for us. But yes, there's been an ability to go, oh, here is what I want, here is what I need, here is what I will not put up with, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Yeah, if we've been stuck at home not doing anything for the past 2 years, at least we've learnt some shit about ourselves.
Yeah. It's definitely been as you said, it's a bad thing, but we can make good out of a bad situation at any stage. And I think us Australians are very good at that. We're very good at looking at a really shitty situation and not being bogged down in the shittiness of it and just finding comedy, especially out of it. The amount of amazing comedians who came out of the woodwork through the pandemic, the amount of amazing comedians I discovered through the pandemic as well was amazing. That's where I discovered, comedy greats such as Melanie Bracewell from New Zealand, who's now here in Australia.
Yep.
Just like she is just the epitome of what I love about comedy, and what, it's so interesting to watch her go from strength to strength, and people like you as well, and TikTok comedians who would have this day job and be working this day job, and then suddenly they blow up on TikTok for saying something funny, and they turn out to be these amazing comedians, or even simple things as like Noodles the Pug, and it's just it's amazing to see that kind of stuff come from isolation.
I agree. I've long said that the old saying is comedy is tragedy plus time, but I don't have the time, so I just cut straight to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, TikTok. Twitter was doing it for a while as well, but TikTok way more acutely. Is just, you're right, is highlighting talent and creative people at a speed much faster than, say, radio program directors at Brisbane radio stations. Like, you can be found immediately.
Yeah, and it's amazing because I sit here as a young person and I go, I don't have to spend years and years grinding at a desk, hating where I am, just to be able to someday make it. Because I know that if I play my cards right, I can, within 2 years be exactly where I want to be.
Yep. And, even if nothing else, it's providing an outlet for people to do what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And if it's for any kind of creative endeavor, if it's a thing you have to do, regardless of whether or not you're getting paid for it or if anyone's watching it or whatever, then that's the thing you're meant to do. You got to keep doing it. And things like TikTok and podcasts, and because I also have a podcast, and at first it was for literally no one, because I wanted to do it. I wanted to do this. If you can't help but do whatever creative thing you're doing, then that's great. And if in doing a TikTok or a podcast or having a Twitter account or doing whatever, you realize this is not fun, great, now you know. Yeah.
You know exactly where the boundaries are. I recently was able to reflect on a previous job I had. I've started a new job. I've been here for about a month now. Mm-hmm. Actually got my first paycheck today. And I was like, I looked at the dollars and cents and it was like the most I've ever been paid in my life.
Are you saying you get paid monthly?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I know. It's painful, but like I understand why my particular employer pays monthly.
But also, what a number when it comes in.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing. I get paid more a day than I sometimes got paid in a week at this new job.
Magic.
And I'm like sitting here going and looking at my co-workers and the situations I'm in. And yes, you know, it may not be butterflies and fairies every time, but at least I've got a supportive community and bosses who will come and chat to me and throw shade. Whereas, you know, I was cowering in fear in my previous job, and I'm looking at that and I go, that is toxic. And I'm so glad that I was able to, maybe not explicitly, but implicitly notice how toxic it was and pull myself out of that and go, no, that's not for me. Let's get out of here as fast as I possibly can.
Totally.
And it's just, I'm just so grateful for things like the pandemic, for being able to kind of slow me down as well. I was in intense, you mentioned earlier that you were a bookish kid. I was pretty much the same. And then I got to high school and I decided that I would say yes to everything. there's this amazing picture of me in year 7. I was theoretically the last year of year 7 in primary school in Queensland, but the high school I went to started at year 7 already. And there's this picture of me in year 7. I have a trombone on my back, this huge school backpack on my front, and 4 Cadbury fundraiser chocolate boxes in my arms.
Bloody hell.
Walking onto this coach, because that was the school bus. And a staff member just took a photo of me. And I think it ended up being circulated by staff members and like, look at this kid. He's just doing way too much.
Yep.
And it was just, I look back at that and I go, how the hell did I even consider that I had the capacity to do that?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that kind of looking back and going, wait, how did I do that? Is both.
Yeah.
It's a very common thing, and it's something I haven't yet figured out how to reverse engineer. In the same way that I was saying earlier that, you know, as you get older, keeping abreast of modern things, learning new ideas takes conscious effort. I want to figure out, and I haven't yet, how to tap into that stupid bravery that made us do things that you look back on and go, the fuck was I thinking? Whether it be physical, you know, you look back on the way you used to ride a bike or the manner you used to get to work, whatever. I don't want to specify, but I did have a Razor scooter for a good period of my very early 20s. Cool or not, I don't care. But it got me to work fast. Yeah. And I look back now and I go, how did I not die? How did I not die? Yeah. But also, for me, even now, even though it was only really 5-6 years ago, how did I think I could go move to New York? But I did, and it was a raging success. But just, even now, thinking back, like, I was full of, I don't know, unearned confidence, hubris, arrogance, just blind stupidity. Who knows? Whatever it was there, and I didn't realize how brave I was until years later when I'm not that brave anymore. Yeah. So the trick is figuring out how to, I don't know, be that brave on command.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, you finally get to that point, you know, my grandparents are in their 80s, and I turn around and they say some real stupid things from time to time. And I turn around and go, how are you going to execute that? Like, you've just had this idea, you set it out into the open, and I hear it, and I understand where it's coming from because I would have the same urges. How? Like, and they're like, it's just going to happen. I'm going to turn on like this whole fit of energy. I'm like, you're the same old man who's blind and deaf, and you know, every now and then I've got to raise my voice at you so you can actually hear me over whatever's happening in a situation, and yet you're now going to walk to the doctor's office a kilometre away, and it's just like,
sure,
yep, okay, and. Like, you know, obviously there's a little bit of scared because it's like, well, what's going to happen? But at the same time, it's like, wow, it's amazing that you can just switch it on and go.
All I can hope is that I continue doing things that make me look back and go, the fuck was, how did I do that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's amazing. And like talking about the future, you know, you've kind of settled, you said you've settled a little bit, but what would be like the crowning achievement that would happen in the future that would make you look back and go, I did everything and I'm happy with everything I've done?
Well, I have had some, you know, like I said, I've had some shifting priorities. There are some things that I used to need to have happen in my life that I don't need to have happen anymore. But the one avenue I haven't finished exhausting is still comedy and comedy writing. I've made some achievements. I've never been permanently staffed on a comedy show, but I have filled in and written some stuff. I have written a show at the Comedy Festival that made money. I didn't set the world on fire, but I did. I more than broke even. That counts as a success. I performed a sketch on a stage in New York. It was a tiny one. There were 30 people there, but I've done it. And so the avenue left for me to pursue is proper stand-up comedy. And that is what I'm doing next year. If I do that and either I hate it or it doesn't go anywhere, that might be my last, avenue to pursue. And then I will just go back to I will try and write another show myself, or do more TikToks. But that's the next and most important step for me, because I have literally done everything a comedian can do without doing stand-up comedy, because I'm a big scaredy cat.
Oh, fucking hell, the same. Like, if the one thing that I would avoid doing if I was to go into comedy would be stand-up. It feels
like such a big risk. But that's what I had been pursuing in New York before I left.
Yeah.
That is how I got the bravery to even enter the NBC Late Night Writers Workshop, because they all come from stand-up backgrounds. I had managed to do one open mic night in New York before I moved back to Australia. And the friend I had who took me, who held my hand, who did an open mic, a set himself that same night, coached me through it. He won an Emmy this year. So if that isn't drive, that's really getting me for like he's won an Emmy, I can do it too. But yes, so the very, very long answer to your very efficient question is the next thing is stand-up, and that is literally happening next year. I have entered raw comedy. I currently live out of town up in the mountains, which has been very good for COVID, but next year we are moving back in so I can more for a bunch of reasons, one of them being so I can more easily access open mic nights, and I'm going to...
It's a pain in the butt trying to drive into the city from far out. Like, I think it's the trapping of every Australian city. Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. I've heard it all from relatives and friends. They're just like, I'm trying to get into the city, and it's going to take me an hour and a half, and I only live 20 kilometres as the crow flies out of the city.
Yep.
And it's like, it's terrible. And I completely understand where you're coming from there.
Yeah.
You did mention before TikTok.
Yep.
I feel like we haven't addressed it. How did your TikTok come about?
I have been, not the earliest of adopters, but I have been a somewhat early adopter amongst my friends for social media since pretty much... LiveJournal in the year 2001. So I jumped on it because it seemed like a fun thing to do. And I mean, I had it when it was still Musical.ly, and all you did was lip sync to things. And when I got it, I was planning just to do more of that.
Yeah.
The more comedians I saw, and not necessarily established ones, but just people whose thing was they either did sketches, characters, and then as TikTokers, people have gotten more used to it, the type of sketch or the type of 1 minute video that can only be done within the medium of TikTok for whatever reason, I got more and more inspired, and I started using it to do my silly little jokes more than because I used to do, tweets and Instagram photos with silly little captions, and I started trying to do them more as video things. Yeah. And I had a couple go viral for various reasons. And then I stumbled on, and I haven't done one in a very long time, but I stumbled on a I guess, what's the word? A series that I could do, that I could maintain, which was Internet Helpline.
I love it.
So do I. And because I've looked at people who do long-running series of themed TikToks and like, oh, well, I just haven't thought of anything. I can't do that. I'll just keep telling my stupid jokes. And I stumbled along. Internet Helpline just came to me, and it's been so much fun.
Yeah. Oh, look, that's how I discovered you, and actually was inspired and created. Not that it was very successful at all. In fact, my friends mercilessly tease me for it because but like I did a similar thing just once. It was just like I'll do it in this style. It was something a relatively funny. It was talking about eating kangaroos, and I was like, you know what, this needs to be a little bit lighter because someone's going to take offense to it. And the people who took offense to it were my friends, because I pretended to hold a phone with my pointer and my pinky rather than my thumb and my pinky. What? I'm like, no, that's the WhatsApp. This is the phone.
That's a phone. Yeah. That's exactly how I would do it as well.
Yeah. And we've been in arguments ever since, my friends and I. And they're both, both of the people that I, are having arguments with about this are very funny people, like in general. And it's just amazing to see that just people get upset at the smallest of things, but at the same time, it's all in jest and it's all a bit, at least with my friends.
Yeah.
I can never quite be sure with strangers on the internet.
No, that is true. Especially on TikTok, like it's shark infested waters. But I honestly don't care. As long as it's still fun, I keep doing it. And I'm not under any delusion that I'm a showrunner is going to see my TikTok and go, well, we must have him. But even if no one of import sees it, some people see it, and even if no one saw it, it's just practice. Yeah. Everything is practice. Everything is. Every time I tell a joke, I hope I get a little bit better, and the next joke will be easier to write, easier to pull off. Yeah. And like I said before, it's as long as it's a thing that I will keep doing, regardless of whether I'm getting paid for it, regardless of if anyone sees it, then I'm going to keep doing it. Yeah,
100%. And it's. I think that this is like a delusion. I'm interacting with a lot more law and business students recently, and it's this delusion that these people who don't work the most creative of pursuits don't understand is like everything you do can be used to get somewhere, and it doesn't have to be clear where you're going, and it doesn't have to be clear on how you're getting there. But that whole process is so important of learning and making those mistakes and deciding this is what I want to do or this is how I want to do something.
Oh, you are 100% correct. Like I said, my radio career started as a volunteer, and I had a fight with literally every single member of my family and several of my friends who told me that was a mistake because, well, if you give away your time, they'll never pay you. Why would they buy the cow when they can get the milk for free, et cetera, et cetera? And, you're being exploited. It's not right. You shouldn't do it. And it felt right to me. And it was something I had to do. And every single piece of my career that I've had for the past 21 years has been because of that. So, that's if it feels right and you have to do it, do it. Because, there is a lack of understanding from people who have a more defined industry, whatever it may be, where they get paid for their time. And I don't mean that as any kind of dismissal or like, you just don't get it, because I envy that. I wish my time was finite and fundable. But there is sometimes a disconnect between this is a thing that you just got to do, and creative endeavors are nebulous.
Yeah.
There is no definition.
And it's not to say that you can't identify where you're being manipulated for your time. There has been plenty of times where I have been manipulated. Either I've let myself be manipulated, or I've realized halfway through doing something that I'm being manipulated for work that I'm doing, and 100%. Go, okay, I've got to pull out of this, because it's not to say that working for free isn't the best thing. It's more saying that, and I think you alluded to it before, because it's so nebulous, there's points where you're just going to have to say, I've got to do this for free to be able to be taken seriously. That
is true. I know you're right. And I have done the same. I have realized halfway through a thing I agreed to do that I was being taken advantage of. I have known from the outset that I was being taken advantage of, but found another benefit for me and did it anyway. I will always advocate for people, especially writers, because this is where it hits them the hardest, in terms of try value your work and be paid for your work. Writers, animators, musicians, any kind of thing where you get commissioned for something that people don't think should cost a lot. I will always advocate for them to get their worth, to know what they're worth. But if there is something that you are offered that you can see a benefit in for you that isn't necessarily monetary, whether that be experience or a connection, exposure is nonsense. But if there's experience to be had, if there's a new element that you can use this to practice on, if there is a network you can forge, and you see it as being a benefit to you, then yeah, sometimes you do that.
Yeah, I got asked the other day, leaving a meeting, why I don't work full time at my new job at the moment. I take a Tuesday off to host a radio show, and I couldn't answer. I couldn't answer this guy, and he's the head of the whole company, and I just couldn't answer him as to why I don't work full time. He obviously sees value in me for the work I'm doing at the moment, but I sat there and you've just made me realize that the reason why I continue with 4ZZZ is because I'm still learning. I'm still learning how to write stories, how to write different kinds of stories. And not just that, also I feel like I'm giving back to the community that has given so much to me as well.
Yeah.
Without mentors, without seeing an emphasis, especially I've got a real passion for community journalism. Without seeing that emphasis and that passion for it, I would hate my degree at the moment. I would hate doing journalism because that is where I want to be. That's where is telling stories of people who might not have their story told all the time or may not make it onto the news every time. That's where I want to be. That's the stories I want to be telling. And, experiences like that make me want to give back further. And I think that is something that not everyone sees the value in.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, no, I agree. I do community musical theatre. There is an amazing non-professional musical theatre scene in Victoria as a whole, but especially in Melbourne. Yeah. I'm not paid for my time. In fact, it costs money to be in a show. There is a show fee. You become a member of the theatre company, and then you get yourself to and from rehearsals for however long. But I do it because I love it, and because, again, yes, there is practice to be had. There is training. I have had more singing and dance training doing these shows than I could possibly have accumulated myself taking lessons.
Yeah.
Do I think I have the means to become a professional musical theatre performer? No. Yeah. But I keep doing this because it's fun. It is an incredible outlet, and there is because that's another thing. A benefit for you for doing a thing that's not paid may not even be a tangible career advancement. It just could be an outlet for you. It could just be fun. So yeah, some of this stuff I do for nothing. I just love it.
And I think that is something that a more cost-benefit analysis kind of person. I'm rewatching Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and all I can think of is Raymond Holt. And the fact that he's got an incredible passion for the arts, but everything is a cost-benefit analysis.
That's right.
And life isn't. Life is a give and take. At some stages, you're going to be riding the highs. You're going to be being paid the big bucks. And other times, you're going to go, how the fuck do I get out of this situation? And I think that the more I speak to people, the more I understand that there is no straight line. Life isn't straight as anyone would like to say. And it's very ironic speaking to you right now as, a gay man. And it's like, well, life is just not straight.
It is not. And yeah, it is a constant, not even necessarily a struggle. It is a constant dance. It is a constant recalibration of doing things because they benefit you, that will for your career, for your life, because you have to do them, because you have no choice, because being an adult comes with responsibilities. Yeah. To doing stuff that makes you happy, that will help at some point, that give back to the community if that is a thing you feel strongly about, and everyone should. It's just a constant recalibration of where you're at and what you're doing. Yeah. I am, and it's amazing, and I'm so glad that I've been able to talk to you about this and about your journey. It's been such a pleasure, and I feel like there is so much more we need to speak about at some stage. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, this has been a joy, because it's also helped me, galvanize things as I've talked about them. Yeah. I'm going to make this joke now. I have been thinking about this joke for pretty much ever since I've started this podcast, but I think this is really cheap therapy. Yeah, great. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, really cheap therapy. It cost me $120 the mic, and that was it. I have not paid a cent. Well, I've put many hours of time into it, but it's great therapy. Totally. Yeah.
and I'm sure you would feel the same about your podcast as well, which, beautiful segue into where can people find you on the internet?
Okay. Well, if you want to read the blog that was mentioned, which talking about cheap therapy, yes, 100%. It was the best therapy I've ever had. It's ChristopherDoesn'tLiveHereAnymore.com. I have put the show version that I did. I adapted it into a 48-minute show. It is on YouTube. I think it's linked from the blog. If not,
I do remember it somewhere.
It's somewhere there.
Yeah.
I am on social media, including TikTok and Twitter, at Chrisopotamia, which was a real mistake picking that username. I thought I was so clever because I'm like, it's Mesopotamia, but with a Chris in it, it's like a pun, and now I have to spell the fucking thing.
Yeah.
And I worked as a copywriter in advertising in radio for a year and a half, and I told everyone, make sure your website is easy to read. Fuck. But it's Chris Opotamia.
Yeah.
Or I have a podcast called Dirty Little Horror. It is a queer horror movie podcast, and you can find it everywhere good podcasts are sold. And then you can find my social media from there if I have not made any sense.
That's, I definitely think that just linking someone to a podcast and hearing a spiel somewhere of all the socials is probably the best way. I think any links or anything you put in a description are never followed through, at least in my opinion.
Oh, no. The best invention on the internet of the past 5 years has been Linktree, which is just like, here's everything. Go if you want. If
you need to stalk me, here I am.
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah. And has there been any media that you've been consuming over the past little bit that you want to plug?
There have been podcasts. I have been doing a podcast for 4 years. I have been listening to podcasts for 6 months. I struggled so hard to get into podcasts because I worked in radio for so long.
Oh, same, yeah. Ever since I got into radio, it's been so hard to actually listen to podcasts.
Yeah, and at first I was really arrogantly like, oh, I don't want to be listening to a conversation that I can't participate in, which is just the height of arrogance. But I've recently got into them. I am addicted to a podcast called The Deep Dive. Which is hosted by Jessica St. Clair and June Diane Raphael, two actresses who, if you don't know their names, you've seen them in something because they're each in 55 things at any given time. There's a pop singer called Jessie Ware who recently did a duet with Kylie Minogue, which is how I know about her, who has a podcast. Okay, this is weird. She's a pop star who has a podcast with her mother in which they invite celebrities over to their house, their literal house.
Oh, no.
And their mother literally cooks dinner for them. And they eat dinner and talk about food, amongst other things. But they always talk about food and what your food history has been like. What was it like growing up? What's your desert island meal, etc. While they eat dinner. And they very graciously cut around them eating. But you do get chapter breaks where they've clearly just finished mains. And they're about to start dessert. And it is... I've never heard someone who already has an established celebrity be so unguarded, with the exception of maybe Adele. But they are just two people, a mum and daughter, chatting to Dawn French, half the cast of Schitt's Creek, Michelle Visage, whoever they can get their hands on. They are definitely two of my favorites.
Yeah, that's amazing. I really love those plugs because it's interesting to see what people are doing in this podcast space as it becomes more crowded, because as it becomes more crowded, we see better and better podcasts popping up. I was obsessed with, before they sold it off to Amazon, Gimlet had this series. It was like a podcast fantasy kind of thing. It was amazing. Kind of true crime-esque, but I hate true crime, so like I don't like the nitty-gritty of those kind of things.
And neither.
But this was like this mystery podcast, and it was just amazing. And then they sold it off to Amazon and made it a web series, I think, as well. So I was like, oh, that's a bit sad. But like at the same time, there are more and more different innovative ways that people are making podcasts.
Totally.
And if you're looking for me on the internet, and if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, make sure you go and check out all the rest of the episodes. I'm wrapping up for the year at the moment. This is going to be the second last episode of the season. I'm going to go on a month and a half's long holiday. I'm going to go travel around the COVID-ridden state of New South Wales. I'm not going to even mention Victoria at this point, but I've decided that just because I've got 23 total days of holidays booked in New South Wales, there's no point in me coming back up to Queensland for a week. So I will stay in New South Wales for a whole month. Maybe I'll even get a residency.
Delightful.
So I'm taking a time off. So if you're listening to this and you're like, well, there's no more episodes on a Monday, go and check the rest of the podcast. You can find me personally at sam.the.journalist on Instagram and TikTok. And because Twitter hates everyone, Sam OB Journalist on Twitter. I really am getting fed up with Twitter at this point. I tweet from the podcast account. That's the Content and Capable, and that it doesn't even seem to go anywhere. So if anyone has the skills to make my podcast blow up on Twitter, I'd love that. I'd love for someone to be able to do that. And this week, I've got to plug something, don't I? This is embarrassing.
You can do it.
Yes, I can do it. I've got to find my list now. Where is it gone? Where is it gone? Where is it gone? It's been turned off because I was at work. Help. I closed all my tabs because I was embarrassed of what I was looking up on the internet. No, my list is empty. I'm going to plug the YouTuber Seamus Gorman. He was my backup. He's on break at the moment, but his videos are really nice. He's this British YouTuber who does a lot of deep dives on Pixar and Disney films, and he was actually the catalyst for getting me into podcasts. I've told this story before, but him guesting on another podcast called Bacon and Eggs got me into podcasts, listening to podcasts, and eventually got me to where I am today, hosting one. So definitely go and check him out. He is an amazing creator and just a touch of chaos, which I love. And thank you once again, Chris, for being on the podcast. I've really, really enjoyed having you on.
It has been my absolute pleasure. You may have gleaned from this last hour and however long that I really like talking about myself. So this has been a treat.
Yes, I've definitely had conversations with different members of the Movie Night Crew Network, which is the small network I'm a part of, about shutting up a little bit myself to let you guys talk about you guests talk about yourselves a bit more.
No, ignore that. Well, I mean, do what you think is best, but yeah. I would ignore them because I enjoy the give and take. Because when you tell me stuff, then I don't feel like quite such a big twat about talking endlessly.
Yeah. Oh, it's the same. I think my aim has been for the last 6 months to have a 50-50 split. You see me getting distracted halfway through the podcast because I would check to see the waves on Audacity and go, is it a 50-50 split? Do I need to shut up a bit more or can I continue on my rant?
Amazing. You're using maths as you go to check. Oh.
This is my embarrassing history as a maths and science nerd in high school. So something that I'm incredibly ashamed to have as a journalist. Wow. Anyway, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I've really, really enjoyed chatting with you, and we definitely have to get you on next time to talk further about some more interesting stories you've got to tell.
Would love to.
Thank you for listening to Content and Capable. You can follow the podcast socials at Content, the letter N, Capable on Instagram and Twitter. You can send a super boring email to us through contentandcapablepod@gmail.com. The art was done by Opia. You can follow them on opia_art on Instagram. Opia is spelled OPIA. Feel free to message them about making art for your project. Our music was written, recorded, and edited by Nora Strauss-Riggs. You can find Nora at Kane_I, that's I as in the body part, on Instagram and Twitter. Feel free to message her about making music for your project or editing your podcast. I'm proud to be a part of the Movie Night Crew Network, which features the Restricted section, a chapter-by-chapter Harry Potter pod with lots of spoilers all the time, the Movie Night Crew, Join some friends as they react to some terrible, some meh, and some really great movies. Of the Oldest Gods, a chapter-by-chapter Rick Road and pod full of myths and legends. My Cabbages, an Avatar podcast that follows the true hero of Avatar The Last Airbender, the Cabbage Cart Guy. And Fandom's Gone Wrong, a show that discusses all things fandoms.
Hello, you awesome nerds out there. Yes, you. Have I got the podcast for you?
We've got pop culture, swearing, and all the immature jokes you could ask for.
We'll take you on a journey through TV shows, movies, books, and maybe a video game someday.
And we'll tell you how they all went wrong.
I'm Charlie.
And I'm Carrie.
And this is Fandom's Gone Wrong.
New episodes every other Wednesday wherever you get your podcasts.
Content and Capable is a podcast all about answering the question, how do you adult? Don't forget to rate and review it on your favourite podcatcher, and I will see you next Monday for another episode.
That movie sucked. I kind of liked it.
Movie Night Crew Network.
Hey everyone, I've just got a little quick announcement to put at the end here. As you may have heard in this episode, I am going to be creating a Christmas episode next week. So, if you have any questions about Christmas in Australia, please send them my way, whether that is through our Instagram account, Content and Capable, or Twitter, or if you are on the Movie Night Crew Network Discord, put it there. Just go and ask as many questions and we'll try to answer them all in next week's episode.